So that's Dearly Beloved. This is one of these things that you never know if they're going to do an intro, and they did one, so I'm going to play it again because now I know there's an intro. Dearly Beloved.
One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Alrighty. There we have take two, Dearly Beloved. So, I got to thinking, which is usually where this all starts. And it would be helpful if I actually had like a forum of people that could like dial in so that we could get opinions other than mine here. Anyway, it occurred to me that art, there's something missing from the definition, and I don't know if you could actually talk them into putting this in there, but art is something that humans do, but animals don't do. I mean, I'm leaving out things like where we don't understand their level of intelligence, like whales and stuff. I'm leaving them out of this equation. I'm talking about the obviously what they call lower animals. So art is something that we do, but they don't do. And it also occurred to me that when they do things that seem like us to art, that seem like art to us, for instance, birds that make beautiful singing sounds, and that's the best example I can think of right now. If you were to just isolate one bird and put it in somewhere that's outside of its normal environment and listen to its call, much in the same way as they record it for identification, like the Audubon Society or something would do that, then it no longer sounds at all like art, because every call sounds identical, and it doesn't matter which bird it is, as long as it's that species, they sound the same. And they've already identified that these sounds that they make have a certain function. It's always a functional sound, and it always has something to do with the necessities of life. It is about procreation, it's about food, it's about claiming territory, keeping safe, things like that. Basically what we humans would call utilitarian purposes. So art is something that has no utilitarian purpose. And, the more you think about it, you realize it really doesn't. It may feel utilitarian if you're the kind of person who absolutely just needs it in order to feel better. Then that might seem to you personally like a utilitarian purpose, but it's not really. I mean, if push came to shove, you'd still survive if you just had a minimum of food and air and water and shelter and all those other things like that. But art is none of that. Art is something other than what we do for survival, or what we do for continuation of the species, and all these sort of natural animal behaviors that have evolved over billions of years. And yet, humans seem somewhat unique in this capacity for creating something that otherwise didn't really need to be here. And so, in essence, it wasn't part of natural selection. It was part of an artificial, human-generated kind of a change. And the same person can create different forms of it that can change over their lifetime, whereas an animal can't do that. They just keep making the same stuff. So, no utilitarian purpose. And it can be very different. In other words, it can evolve in one person's lifetime. So the Darwin's out the window. You don't have to procreate in order for evolution to happen. It can happen right in your own lifetime. And so these are very strange new concepts that probably didn't exist before there was a consciousness that it evolved to the degree necessary to perceive it, which wasn't that long ago. And so the next question is, now that we know that it really doesn't have a purpose other than some of us feel this intense need to express something, and like I can say that, like, what I do here is not utilitarian. You can't really use this to survive or to increase your herd or increase the safety of your village or any of that. It's just not, you can't. And if this were back in those days of prehistoric times, anyone that had enough time to actually sit there and just produce these expressions of their own soul, well, they would have been reliant upon having a structure around them full of people that were willing to do all the stuff necessary, like hunting and gathering and all those other things. So it must have arisen from this extra time that people had once we started to become civilized. But the sticky part is that now it has been turned into something utilitarian. Now, much art seems to be sort of designed to further a political agenda, or maybe to sell product, or to increase the power of the artist somehow within our social structure, or whatever, you name it. These various things that would normally you would attribute those to more labor type tasks. For instance, if you build a better mousetrap or something like that, you're not doing that for the purposes of art. You're doing that so that the world will beat a path to your door, because that means they're going to come with a lot of coins for you, but when art becomes a utilitarian thing, then it's no longer about this expression, and it's more like, I'm going to find a better way of doing this, this whatever tribal agriculture that we do in order to increase the richness of our tribe. We do these various collective actions, and I'm going to find a more efficient way of doing that, so that I or my family or whatever end up become more enriched. But there's nothing in that requires you to create anything. All you really have to do at that point is just find something else and then sell it with a new package, which is exactly what's going on in much of the art that you see now. But so the question, does it matter? Does it still matter? I'm talking about the first definition part, where it really is a personal expression that has no utilitarian purpose, and that if as a person who is receiving art, the only thing that you're gaining from it is something that you can't really describe or show anyone, because it would be somewhere deep inside, and you would need to be sort of a more evolved than a dog or something. Oh, maybe a dog's not the best animal. More evolved than a groundhog, in order to be able to understand what you received. And so utilitarian isn't necessarily better, nor is it worse, but with art being something that really, in its very essence, can't be sold or bought or given value in that sense. It really can't be put into the category of a trade, a fungible object, whatever. Then does it have any place whatsoever in 2023? I'm not going to answer that, because I would rather hear someone else answer that. Now, you probably already know what my answer would be, because I'd have to say yes, otherwise I would have very little purpose for even being here. But I think that the question should be asked, because I'm starting to wonder how much real art there is left. And I'm not even sure that what I do is art. All I know is that in its present form, although it's obviously very watered down, because I'm stuck with a certain library of pre-recorded music that I play along with, and that really changes the spectrum of what I would be doing, which, if it were possible and I had other musicians and we could do this stuff for you, you'd probably hear a very different artistic outcome. But that's not possible right now. In any case, to me, it feels like something that absolutely has to come out. And I don't have a further answer. I have no idea whether or not it's valuable, or whether it can be sold, or what its purpose is within this strange society in which we find ourselves. I just don't know the answer to that. The only reason why I keep doing it is because it feels like an absolute primal need for me. It has for a long time. And I have no idea whether that is something that is important. I believe that there have been artists in the past where they have expressed it in that way, and perhaps maybe not during their lifetime, but sometimes, that was sought after because for some people it was an enriching experience for them to take that in. But everything is very strange now. It's very, very political, and the degree of sort of capitalist competition that we have is, I think, more than it's ever been in my lifetime. And everybody seems to be trying to find angles and make profits and do these things, and it's like everything's a business. And there's nothing wrong with that, but is it possible for art to really be within those structures, within this new world? And I think that question